Hey, everybody, and welcome to our weekly blessings for those who mourn. It is slightly earlier today because we had an adjustment in schedule. Pastor Amanda likely will be joining us any moment and will be here. But first, take a second, calm your hearts, calm your minds. And because we are entering the season of Lent, I want to invite you, because there's a lot of conversations about darkness and light, to remember that these conversations, unlike the erroneous and unjust preaching of people during the time of slavery who equated these things to racial context, that we are specifically ensuring that when we are hearing these words, that we are thinking about darkness and light in the context of colorful dancing light. And so take a second and center yourself. My name is Pastor Megan Rohr, and I am the pastor at Grace Lutheran in San Francisco. And we begin this time together to think about the ways that our lives have changed, to grieve collectively, because doing that in person is not something that is possible. So we are remembering those who have died from the coronavirus, those who continue to experience the palpable presence of injustice and racism, those who are fearful and afraid, and particularly those during these times that find themselves in parts of the world that are experiencing disasters made by weather, and particularly those without power and water and heat. Pastor Amanda was one of those folk this week, and there have been some signs that some of those conveniences are returning, and we're hopeful and prayerful that Pastor Amanda and all the folk from Central Lutheran in Portland are well and warm today. We gather here in your presence, God, in our need, and bringing with us the needs of the world. We come to you, for you come to us in Jesus, and you know by experience what human life is like. We come with our faith and with our doubts. We come with our hopes and with our fears. We come as we are because you invite us to come, and you have promised never to turn us away. Today, I'm thinking about all of the changes that come from Lent. Lent is typically a time when we are thinking about what is hard, and some people used to take on resolutions or ways that they wanted to change their life and care for the world in more just ways. And hopefully we are embodying that and taking that on in the places and spaces where we live. It's been a lot of weeks, almost a year now, that we have been doing this weekly service and yearning for people to be able to have some self-care and to orient themselves and to at least have a community to talk about how hard it is with. And so we've talked about everything from using poetry and music to videos and community. And I thought we would go back to one of my favorite resources in case there are folk who missed it the first time around. And that is this book by Kate Bornstein, 101 Alternatives to Suicide. It is, the first half of the book is written to help LGBTQ individuals feel like there is a space for them in the world, and talks about Kate's journey. But the back half, which I think is applicable to most people, has under the idea that anything that you do that is less than taking your own life is good when that is the option that you are faced with, has this kind of like wonderful 101 ideas of things that you can do to care for yourself. And some of them are marked with skulls and crossbones because some of them are dangerous, with the idea, again, that they might be less dangerous than taking your own life. Some of them have umbrellas to show how much they might take care of you. And then some of them are rated based on whether it's something that children should do or youth should do, or only adults should do. And I thought I would just share some of these with you all because maybe you haven't bought the book, maybe you're not there. But some of these ideas are really fun, like moisturize, right? This idea that there is something in your life that you can take care of and you can fix, even if it's a small, tangible thing. Moisturizing can change the smell if depending upon the type of moisturizer that you select, but we don't normally always think of this as self-care. Maybe those who are living in the Midwest or those in the thick of snow understand how much the climate can kind of dry out your skin during this time. And so maybe you do it just because that's a part of the pattern and the rhythm of life. But to be able to do it intentionally, to take care of yourself, is something that you can do kind of in a private moment when so many other things are out of your control. If you've ever watched Queer Eye, Jonathan Van Ness is very into helping people kind of change their life a little bit by just using the way that you like groom yourself in the morning as a symbol of loving yourself and that you are worthy of care. This book is old enough that it's talking about the very first Queer Eye for the Straight Guy that came out back when I was watching it. I like some of the kind of interesting things that are kind of in this book, like things that you might not think about, like dancing. This one is dancing for your life. Just keep dancing and don't stop until you stop feeling like it is achy, because keeping moving is a good one. Is a way to make sure that you're seeing tangible change. There's actual clinical research that says that cardio for 20 minutes is one of the best ways to decrease stress and decrease anxiety. I'm still trying to like make that a routine. So I preach that one more than I participate in it, but just wanted to put that out there. Make believe. This is one of my favorites too, because if you are at home and sheltering in place, you can have a day where you don't turn on the news. You can have a week you don't turn on the news. You can have a month where you don't turn on the news, and you can imagine whatever you want outside your window. You could even buy a picture of Switzerland and put it on your window and open it and pretend like you are on an airplane ride, which is what I've seen some people do. This idea that you can escape into fantasy, not the kind that is going to take your mental health into a place that is unhelpful because you're never present back in reality, but just enough make believe that you are able to care for yourself. Last night, Dominique and Michaela and I got airplane tickets, and we flighted. We took a flight to Australia. Thankfully, the seats for this flight were our beds. And when we woke up, the flight attendant named Michaela told us we had arrived in Australia. And so I'm excited to see what our indoor activities are when we pretend like we're in Australia for the rest of the week. And just know that some of the things that kids are doing to cope right now are things that you can do. And it might seem unusual if you don't have kids in your house to be able to do some of those things, or like just make a gingerbread house, even though it's well past that season. But goodness gracious, if you don't tell anybody that you did it, how are they going to judge you for it? I'm just saying. So I really appreciate this book. Here's another one of my favorites. It's similar to what I just told you about. Act your age or any other age. So you can just pretend you know how to be an adult if being an adult feels like it's something that is foreign to you. Or you can pretend that you're a 6-year-old for a full day and just like, if you live in a warm place, make a slippy slide in the backyard. If you live in a cold space, take the time to make a snowman. Because pretending you're a different age, if that gets you through today, get through today, guys. Like, seriously. For those who are just joining us, we're looking at some of the ideas for self-care that are in Kate Bornstein's book, 101 Alternatives to Suicide, not because that's the place we're all at, but just because sometimes after a really long amount of time of like stepping out of the world or After a long time of sheltering, you kind of like run out of ideas of things to do. And particularly for those who are snowed in right now, assuming that you have electricity because you're watching this, I just want you to know that you can do all of those things. And that, have a day of being silly. Have a day where you just have fun. We had a dinner party the other day where we ordered Mexican food and pretended that we were on a vacation to Mexico. Again, didn't go there because that's not appropriate for our family right now, but we could have some of the memories. We looked at photos of previous times that we had been there. We got to eat some of the food that we really enjoy, and we got to kind of be together as a family doing something that was different than what we normally do other days of this sheltering in place time. Say please and thank you. Saying please and thank you as a method of like staying well and staying alive. I think part of that is just that the putting out gratitude into the world. Sometimes it used to be that you could change the world just by smiling at people. One of my favorite things to do is to smile at people who don't expect you to smile at them because people don't like their job or their uniform or their station in life or their smell. And just to smile and mean it at someone else really for me could change and make my whole day worthwhile, even if I was pretending to smile. Usually by the end of smiling at someone, the smile was true because that interaction that we had on a human level was such a heartfelt connection. Well, harder to do that now that we wear masks when we're around people that don't live in our households. And so one of the ways that you can replicate that gratitude experience of other people's interactions is to say please and thank you. You might live in the South where they do that all the time, but in a lot of other parts of the United States or in other parts of the world, people have stopped saying please and thank you. And with how long we have been sheltering with this coronavirus, there's a lot of grumpy people, rightfully, right? There's some uncomfortable stuff that's happening right now. And I think going out in the world, saying please and thank you is a way that we can capture what it used to feel like when we just smiled at someone who hadn't deserved it, but we just wanted to connect with them and tell them that we loved them. I like if you are someone for whom you are always trying to care for other people, one of the ideas that Kate has for how you can care for yourself for one day is to not follow the golden rule. And as a pastor, you should follow the golden rule. But if it keeps you alive for one day to not treat people as they ought to be treated, and I'm not talking about doing despicable things to them, but if just you need a break from being nice, take a break from being nice. Because literally, if you are in a place where your anxiety and your difficulties are so thick for you that it makes you wonder if you shouldn't exist in this world, and all you've got to do is take a break from the golden rule for like a day or a week or a month and maybe say what you think to people. I'd rather you have to repair relationships for saying a not quite as kind thing as you could than if you didn't exist at all. And so just know that you don't have to be perfect. None of us are perfect in this time. And all of us are having crappy days. All of us are sometimes experiencing wonderful days. That if what is helping or if what is fueling your shame and your distance from God is feeling like you are not perfect enough, know that I give you permission to try to do the best you can, or to love God even when you haven't done the best that you can. There are so many people that I talk to these days who have lost their connection with God or lost their connection with a community of faith. And I just want you to know that like God's not actually taking attendance. I used to think that. I used to collect the stickers at Sunday school when I was little, but that just meant I was going to be a pastor when I grew up. It didn't mean God loved me more because I had more stickers on my chart than my brother. And so if you're someone who is wishing you were able to do more a lot of the time, and that is getting in between you and God, then have a day of not feeling guilty for being you, even when you're not doing your best vow silence. Vow silence kind of feels like how it might be for a lot of people who are living by themselves during this time. But I guess my whole point today is really just to say that, like, Kate Bornstein's book, if you don't have any more ideas about how you can care for yourself, there are at least 101 things. You can make your own journal or your own Excel spreadsheet that comes up with even more ways that you can care for yourself. This is a great book for anyone who has teenagers in their house, because the number one cause of death for people who are 25 and below is suicide. And that risk is higher for people who have intersectional identities, for people of color, for LGBTQ youth, for trans youth. And giving the book to someone means they will for sure not read it if they are a teenager. They'll say, I don't need this book. I don't, like, why are you telling me I have to have self-care? But if you put the book on a bookshelf or next to the toilet as if you're reading the book, it wasn't for them. They discover the book. They maybe steal the book. You never mention that the book is gone and that they have it. You just let them explore it and like find it themselves. Then it's a book that I know has saved a number of people's lives. I keep a whole bunch in stock. If you would like a copy of the book and can't afford it, I can send you a copy, because our congregation regularly sends them out to people. And I just really want you to know that you are worth it, right? We've been slogging through this for a super long time. We have made it this far. Like, for those who are experiencing anxiety and difficulties at an extreme level, for those whose grief is so big it feels palpable, for those who are worried about others and really just hoping that people will care for themselves and choose life and live fabulously, I want you to know that even if you don't make the best choice, fight for yourself, right? Do as many self-care things as possible before you get to that breaking point. And even if you're not even close to that point, if you are just exhausted and weary and stressed out and need a vacation, but it's hard to go on vacations right now, then feel like you can care for yourself in those ways too. And I want you to know that no one has too much self-care and doesn't need more. There are 0 people that I would put on that list. Even like some of the most centered people who spend so much of their time doing meditation and trying to be present, right? I visited this monastery in Thailand where these monks dedicate their entire life, from the time they're small elementary school children all the way until they die, just meditating and being in community with each other. And still they invented Thai massage because their bodies hurt from meditating that much. There are, right, if monks who have dedicated their lives to trying to be at peace with the world and not doing harm still need the self-care of massage, then by golly, you might too. And how much more so because we deal with the muck and the mire of shoveling snow and neighbors who are jerks and all the things that pop up in our lives. Today is February 19th, and so far during this time of the coronavirus, there have been 2.44 million deaths in the world. 62.2 million have recovered, which is hopeful. But here in the United States, 493,000 have died, and 2,620 of those deaths were yesterday. And whether or not you are touched personally by these deaths, that is, for us, a generational transforming amount of people who have died at the same time. And in the midst of all of these deaths from the coronavirus, there have been still people who have died in traffic accidents, and people who have died from drug overdoses and from suicide. And so though we are a world who is grieving monumentally together, it still can feel really lonely to feel by yourself walking through this grief. No matter how many people live in your house, no matter how many people in your town have experienced this grief, no matter how many people in the world are holding this grief, it's still yours personally. And I hope that that this encouragement today will help you to personally take care of yourself. Because like they say on that airplane that I was imaginatively on to Australia last night, you got to put your oxygen mask on yourself before you can put it on other people. And so Lent, I think, is about that. It's about taking care of yourself and reorienting yourself to being worthy of love, your own love and God's love and other people's love, so that you can care for the poor and you can be present for others, so that you can get rid of your own guilt and shame, so that you can forgive others, and that we can begin kind of this reconciliating process that we know is going to come exploding into our world during this season of Easter. Well, hopefully that was something that will help you make it through this week. I am so yearning for you and so rooting for you, and sending you oodles of as much love as I possibly can for this week. So why don't we pray for a bit? And if you'd like, you can add your prayers in the comments and I'll add them to my words. God of love, bring us hope in these times of weariness. Help healthcare providers and first responders to care for as many as they can, to bring as much health as possible for as long as possible to as many as need it. Help vaccines to get to as many as safely as possible. And help us to begin to imagine the possibility of coming out of our homes and for safety to return to us. Be with those who are experiencing storms and weather-related emergencies. Bring heat to those who need it, electricity to those who need it, water to those who need it, rest to those who need it. Help politicians be good stewards of our resources. Help us to do the best we can in loving our neighbors. Bring us strength. We await the day when you will bring justice so thick that it flows like an ever-flowing stream, and we wish that it would come quickly. If it does not, give us shovels to do the work that is needed to make it happen. Be with those who are underhoused and homeless. Be with those who are hungry and tired and in need of economic justice. Give everyone who needs it not only their daily bread, but a full nutritional plate that keeps them healthy. Be with teachers and students that they may have learning experiences that are lifting up and bringing together and are safe. Be with those who are pastors and faith leaders during this time, that they may have strength and creativity that they need to make it through this time of Lent and into Easter. Be palpably present with us so that we may know that you are here, that you are love, and that hope is near. And we conclude with those words that we say each week, those words that Jesus shared from the mount with all of those weary pilgrims who were looking for hope and love. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Live forgiven, claim your wholeness, and go in peace. I love you, my friends. Take care.